Basel II. Basel II was mainly focused on the level of capital. When lending money, banks engage in activities bearing some level of risk. For this, Basel II presupposes that some risks come with lending, and part of the capital has to be set aside to cover these risks. To illustrate this, we will take BNP Paribas Fortis as an example, using some round numbers to render the comparison somewhat easier. Let's use 200 billion of loans as the starting point. Basel II states that some risks are associated with those loans, and Basel III continues this reasoning. This risk is not equal to all of those loans. For this, the loans are weighted in order to arrive at the total amount of risk-weighted assets. Returning to the 200 billion of loans, some are weighted at 100%, some at 50% or less. In this instance, 200 billion of loans give us 100 billion of risk-weighted assets. Basel II told banks to set aside 2.5% on the risk-weighted assets, or 2.5 billion in this case. Basel III is using the same concepts, but imposes not 2.5%, but 7%, or even more, depending on the nature of the activities and the type of bank. This was the first axis, leading to a considerable increase in the required capital for banks. The second element Basel III adds relates to the size of the balance sheet. In the past years, we have seen balance sheets of banks growing significantly. Basel III insists on limiting this and even stimulates banks to take initiatives to reduce them. The way to impose this is by putting a limit on the size of the activities a bank can develop, compared to its own capital. For this, a leverage ratio has been developed. The third element added by Basel III, and probably the most important one, is liquidity. Liquidity is represented by this bucket. The bucket is not filled up with water, but it represents liquidity, so it contains euros and cents. What is liquidity to a bank? A bank receives deposits and grants loans. Every day, the bank disposes of a certain level of cash through its activity of collecting deposits and by providing